Hey guys, it is Live Bold and Boss Up podcast time. We are live at the Mahaffey Theater for the TBT Powered Up Tech Fest, and our final conversations are with Dinesh and Saahil over at Blackstraw.ai. If you want to get super technical about AI and implementation, these are your guys. They walk us through some super technical stuff. They are in the weeds, they are building and doing, and it's really cool to see your girl was struggling with understanding, right? It was so technical, but it was so fun to talk about because that's where we're going, right? So you have to have those tough conversations and talk about it.
Oh yeah, my mind was blown. And I'm sure a lot of you will really enjoy hearing all the technologies and what they're working on. But yeah, I was like, wow, this is over my head, but it was super interesting and it was a fun conversation. We have Sahil and Dinesh from Blackstraw
Yes.
on the podcast, live at Powered Up. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you for having us.
I know we were just starting to get into it a few minutes ago, but Blackstraw, what is Blackstraw? What do you do?
So we are a data and AI company. We were founded in 2018. So we're 7 years old. And we've been doing AI for a long time, as you can tell. So before, the recent surge, we help our clients work on the data and AI use cases. We started our journey on the AI side of things, started building computer vision models for the retail industry, got into other streams of data science since then, got into predictive analytical solutions because we were doing so much of data science work. Naturally, we got into data engineering because clients came to us for about their problems with data as we were solving data science problems. And we said, okay, yeah, we can help you with your data problems. And so today on the data engineering space, we do everything. We build like pipelines, migrate data, migrate applications on the cloud, do all of that. And then because we were doing so much data, and this sounds a little organic now, but it probably is. Clients also started coming to us for acquiring more data. Hey, how do we get this image data that we want, or how do we get this data from the internet, and what do we do? So we start building data acquisition solutions. So we started looking at think about specialized SDKs for like image capture and like things like that. So now today we are data acquisition, data engineering, data science. That's what we do. Yeah, and we just spoke about Agentic AI, which was one of our data science solutions that we did with one of our client
Cool.
in our client ecosystems. That's what we spoke of.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
you want me to
I
simplify?
no, I love it. No,
If
I
you
love
if
it.
you
It's
want more
great.
complex, I can pass the mic and it
No.
can get more.
So what do you have like, obviously there's a lot in AI
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can do. Do you
Yes.
have like a favorite use case or like a favorite project that you've worked on with a client, like with AI?
We like all projects that we do. There
Do
are
you
a
have to say
few.
that? Did they pay you to say
Yeah,
that?
yeah. You never know. They might be watching, or but there are a few interesting ones that have happened. For example, in the market research world, the way we would earlier do audits would be very different. People would go write pen and paper, and then they would punch into a device, and then they would collect data, and then so one of the projects we did was changing the way that happens and looked at ways in which we can image something, so you no longer have a punch, right? The use case we just spoke of was very, very interesting for us because, and this may be a little complex, but basically platforms in a lot of large enterprises are old because of how old the technology is. So
100%.
you
Always.
have people who've been in the company 30 years, 40 years, right? Who've written that code, written that program, and passed it. Some of them are not around anymore, right? So you have a lot of business logic and a lot of revenue that sits on that because it's churning a lot of data, it's producing output, and a lot of revenue sits on that. So the use case we just spoke of was about how we helped one of our clients modernize their platform. But typically you'd modernize, you'll bring in a team of developers, understand the logic, go and build that platform again. And what we're now able to do with agentic AI is you're able to um, sort of build together and put together a virtual team of sorts that can actually go understand the business logic, go and write the code for you, go and validate that, go and create an output. You literally can have a team do it, virtual team. And that's what we did, which was one of our first implementations then, I think earlier this year. Now we've got on a few more. So that is an interesting use case. And that's interesting right now with everything that's happening, because everyone's talking about AI.
Right.
And we've been talking about it for a year. But this is real now. And you can see that happening. I just met someone outside who spoke to me and said, hey, what do you think is going to happen, with all these people and, all these developers, what would happen? And
Right.
it will change. The answer is it will change.
Mhm.
Right now, a lot of heavy lifting can be done by models, and world will change. But that doesn't mean that, hey, people will be doing nothing. It means that those people will now go and build more products using the same models that are being used. So companies will do more, right? They will invest in more products, and so the landscape is changing, and it's in our world. It's really interesting to see. Dinesh, I don't know if you want to add something.
So it's specifically more interesting time for real engineers, right? So data scientists, like people who love data, work with the data complexity, understand it, and what you can do with that data. So typically, an year back, what we can do with the data is very limited. Like we can use that data to do a binary decisions, to give us some number that we don't know, that can be predicted numbers, right? But years back, the image generation and the video generation, those were like very basic. Some of the videos and data that we generate with AI was not very effective. But with the client server today, what we are doing is more it realizing the true value of it. So a couple of years back, when ChatGPT came out and it's been popular, the model that we used in 2023, it was not up to the mark. But the models that we have today, which is solving the complex problems. So one of the impactful things that we do see at the client place is like faster application development. How do we solve the problems faster than before? So typically, a couple of years back, so if you want to build a machine learning model, it takes at least 6 months to do it. So, but the world, the speed that we are going, so you need a model which is ready to use, and this model is intelligent, and you can build more complex applications with it. So that's the real trend that we are going towards, and we see value in it. So that value basically gives us more opportunity that we can easily, like, it's easy to demonstrate the value rather than showing that this model is 90% accurate, 98% accurate.
Right.
So that's especially like important thing that's happening right
Since given that we're at a tech conference, and I feel like everyone we've talked to, all the speakers we've talked to, conversations on AI, different tools, of course, Chat GPT. I don't know why it's like the Google, right, of AI tools, but I just wanted to know from your personal perspective, which tools do you like to use from either a work perspective or personal perspective? Do you have a favorite?
So, being a data scientist and the engineer, so it is more we understand what's the pros and cons of each of the model. ChatGPT has become synonym of the entire technology world. How Google had been a synonym of search. So now ChatGPT has become a synonym, but basically ChatGPT has certain limitations, certain advantages. So we do have a catalog of models, not just GPT, models that runs in ChatGPT, models that are specifically very effective in terms of code operations, translating the code, models which are effective in orchestration. Orchestration is one of the key component of workflows. So typically workflows runs with rule engine, like if this happens, do this, if not, do that. So that replacing those things we can do with small language models, models which are lightweight, which are very cost effective. You spend a penny to do an operation, not dollars. So those kind of models are very specific in terms of how do we orchestrate certain workflows. And there are models which are very good in planning. So to solve a problem, what are the steps you need to do? Like reasoning models. The reasoning models basically applies the pattern of agentic to question itself before delivering the answer. Like to do this, if the person is coming from the role, let's say you want to solve a problem in civil engineering, how do you typically solve it? So you need to put the different perspectives into the role. Like if you are a realtor, how do you solve this problem? If you are a user, end user, how do you solve this problem? If you are an engineer, how do you solve this problem? Putting multiple roles into perspective. So that's kind of model which specifically uses reasoning into the workflow to deliver plan that the other models can come into play and execute it. So answering a question which model is better, favorite, is basically depends on use case, and sometimes it could be combination of things together.
That makes sense.
So the simple answer also is that I think what Dinesh is describing from a professional perspective, each model behaves differently and every model has its own strength. So we use a combination. That's what we do. Personally, I don't know what you think, but I use ChatGPT a lot because today I think it's beating everything else on generic use cases, because the use cases that the common person is going to it for is trying to, either understand history or say that, hey, draft me an email to say this, or, like those kind of tasks. Today, it outperforms other models because they're constantly evolving. And, also how much they're spending and how much data is being sent there, because it's all about how much data goes and how much they use to train it versus the others, which are probably not getting fed as much data. So lesser usage, less data going there. So ChatGPT will continue to get better and better till a point in time where, the others, like Google, a lot of what you Google today also is being fed to models, right? And now you're seeing Google generate answers too. It's just not as good as ChatGPT does today, but it is getting there. So it's a matter of time where, you're on to, you're talking about like a Pareto, and towards the end of it, now everyone's like running that last mile. We're not there yet. That's why ChatGPT seems so superior to the other models today,
Right.
for generic tasks. But we are seeing in the professional, on the work side of things, we are seeing certain models perform better than ChatGPT models, because they're trained for certain type of tasks. Like he
Right.
described image generation. So think about a can of Coke, right? How would you design the pack before? You design it by sending it to a designing team to design it. That's no longer going to happen eventually, because you're going to feed a set of instructions to a model, and the model will generate what that can of Coke package should look like, right? And it's already happening. So when that starts to happen, that model that we're using, like we use the Flux model, it's going to get better and better for those kind of tasks, right? Because we're going to generate more and we're going to give more feedback. We'll ask you to tune it, do this, do that, and it gets better. So that is going to happen. So we're seeing models behave differently, but generic purpose,
I use it all the time too.
you do, right?
Even like for the podcast, like before we were meeting all the speakers today, I put in there like, send me interview questions for a podcast, and I'm interviewing Saahil.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, give me a whole bio on you and tell me
Yeah.
questions to ask you. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just easy. And then you can like,
Yeah.
it's not perfect, but you can.
Well, you no longer want, if you want to look up someone, and if there is public information available, you no longer need to go on 10 sites to gather it.
Right.
Them. Well, just
It's all
help you,
there.
right? So it's definitely making things more efficient for
Right.
everyone.
Right. What are your thoughts on the open chat GPT versus a paid version where it's like a close-ended, right? Because if you, my understanding, if it's open, anything you feed it, it goes into the general population. So anybody on the other side doing chat GPT can also gain access to that information that you're feeding it. Whereas if it's closed and you're paying for your version, it's kind of, you have the kind of the World Wide Web at your fingertips and the information that you're feeding it and creating from it.
I think the paid version, the way I would interpret it, or I would say what it does, it gives you more control. So the paid version will tell you that, hey, is this, for example, is this like, of course, and you can hit the paid version different ways. Like you can use it by, just calling the model instead of writing things down on the chat interface. You can call the model, right? For certain types of tasks, you can say that, hey, I'm sending you these set of images, look at these images and give me this data back, right? Like you can do those kind of tasks. So it gives you more control to look at models and talk to models. It gives you more control on what you want to do with the chat. For example, you can still, on a paid version, you can still have your data going back into the model for training, right? But you also have an option to say, no, don't send this data, right? So it gives you more control like that. It also allows you more options to choose different versions of models, because ChatGPT has different models and different versions, and they've tuned it differently, and they've seen their models perform differently for different types of tasks. So it gives you control to choose, hey, give me a reasoning model versus, your generic model, right? So it gives you more control versus a non-paid version, like an open free version, which I think is, it's just a default model out there, and everything you feed, goes back, and it doesn't have, it has, it lets you do certain types of tasks. So I think that's the main difference between the two, right?
I can give a little bit of perspective on how it differentiate in terms of data usage. So with the limited understanding how ChatGPT might operate, I'm not from ChatGPT, but with the limited understanding, they have the regulations to make sure the data is not pointing towards any specific user, making it anonymous, and pipelines to make sure that when data goes in, before going into the model, applying the anonymity. When it is generating, applying the anonymity again. But what we do at the enterprise level is don't risk it, right? So we never use anything which is free. Always comes with cost. So one of the things that we make sure is like these models, we have enterprise versions of the model, which are more controllable. We can control like where these models run, what all the which compute, where is it physically running, and how do we access it? What happens to the data that we send to this model? And how do we control putting more guardrails around it, like to make sure that the data intentionally or unintentionally not generating something which is inappropriate. So it gives more control. So in the enterprise, when it comes to the business professionals, so it always good to use these models on more trusted cloud providers rather than non-enterprise cloud providers. So there are cloud providers who are, all of them are public. Some of them are enterprise grade, some of them are not. So we choose enterprise grade. It's important to understand the end user license agreement, data agreement, protection policies, data retention policies, even how long they retain that data in their server. How do they apply data purging? Like how do they destroy the data that we send to them? Understanding all those factors is important when we build the solutions to our customers. But in the retail world, like the public usage, so all the data typically flows through a data security policies, even it is free version or non-free version. But it is always better to know what is the policy being proposed by those vendors.
Right. I know. I feel like it's a black hole, right, of AI tools.
To
It's really interesting.
to us it feels differently. To us it feels that, hey, finally things are opening up, versus, because everything you used to do before was a black hole. Like we've been around for 7 years, right? We've been training models, we've been doing all this. And at that point, people, and the reason people used to look at AI like that was they would never know why a model is predicting something. So let's say you build, just being now, this is a coffee machine, right? And you want to predict faults in the machine, and how frequently would a fault happen. you would model based on the data that the machine carried and the logs of the data, and you'd model it and you could predict something, right? But you could never explain why is this happening. Now you can do that because the model will tell you that, hey, we've seen this, we've seen that, and it can explain much better. So now explainability is much easier than what it was before. And that's why we feel the other way versus, so in a couple of years, you will start seeing that, hey, you can now, the more you interface with it and the more you interact with it, you will start seeing that, hey, the models are able to tell me things that and do things for me and reason things out. And, like those kind of tasks, it can go much beyond like just, right. Like you could send it a response of the email you get and ask it to analyze it, and it will analyze it for you. Right. And it will also analyze certain ways, right? You could say that, hey, I am a client to this person, analyze this email to me. Or you could say, I'm an employee to this person, analyze this. It will analyze it different ways. Right.
Which is wonderful because that beats sitting there and over analyzing in your head. What does this mean? Right.
A lot of times, I think, generally people have started looking at it to, interpret things also versus just getting tasks done.
Yeah. Like that.
Right. So a lot of times, like I'm sure, like, you would have just if you have a new client and you want to draft contract, right? It could generate that, but it could also, like when they respond, it could also probably tell you things that, what does that mean? How should we respond to this?
That's a great point, because I could put in there, hey, I'm gonna email this person because I want them as a client. How do they like to receive information? Do they like really short emails? Do they like a lot of information? Maybe I need to give them a novel, right, in my email. So that's a great point. You could use that.
Yeah, you could use it to analyze different clients. Like you could say that, hey, this is my history with the client. This is what it does. This is what I do with them. How should I, what are my marketing strategies? Like it will tell you things like that, right? It will suggest things, and it can reason things, and it's more nuanced than what you use. And we are just getting started, right? So in the coming years and in the next 1 decade, things will change because we are only talking about what it can do virtually. And we've all known robotics for a while.
Right.
Now robotics and AI together,
amazing.
You're already seeing videos, but it's not out here in our households, but it will.
It will be. That's what you feel like the future will be in the next.
I think it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. Like we all, like, you have vacuums going around your house right now, but if you put AI on it and say that, program it to say, hey, also be my security guy, also do that. You could say that he also be my, I don't know, my server on the table and put something on top of it and give it to arms. It will. So like the world of, I'm just saying things, but the world and the possibilities of what it could now do as things come together will be very, very different. And that's why, like when someone asks me, hey, what do you think will all these people do? They will do that. There'll be more products to build. There will be like things to do. And who's going to do that?
Right. More opportunities.
Right? More opportunities. Yeah. So it's definitely changing the world, but I don't think it's something to, to absorb and something to be closer to, because it will change the world.
Well, I love the way you both articulate it. It makes it more digestible, right? When you don't live and breathe in it every day and work in it like you guys do, it's really great to kind of just go back and forth and talk about what it can do and what we think it might be able to do in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us both.
Yeah, thank you for being on here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.